Let me go to Milton. Milton, are you there?
Yes, I'm here, Ndugu.
Thank you very much for your patience.
Oh, I'm very honored to be on your show, as always.
Now,
I think your show makes significant impact all over the African continent. So I'm honored, as always.
Profoundly honored, of course, for your compliments and support.
Thank you.
Now, let me ask you this question, Milton. When you talk to people about African politics, people are very quick to be very dismissive about the role of opposition political parties on the continent. Is it because political parties on the continent are ineffective, are weak, are not focused, or is it because they are having a problem of not having adequate or sufficient political space in which to operate?
Well, let me start with the tail end of the question. Political space within which to operate. That is the absolute answer, and it goes back to what my brother in the studio said, James, where politics is regarded as a zero-sum game. And it also goes to what you said, where politics is regarded as the politics of the belly. And these issues need to be addressed. Obviously, let's take the example of Uganda, where the National Resistance Movement regime of General Yoweri Museveni dominates absolutely the political space. As we saw in the 2016 election, when the EU observer team came to see that election and came out with a report, which, by the way, is posted online and advise not only governments but opposition parties, not only in Uganda but all over Africa, to look at the report, the final report of the EU team. And it analyzed that election. And it said the government absolutely dominated the media space, the financial space, where in fact there was no distinction between the state resources and the party resources. So you can't have an environment like that and expect independent political parties to grow and to be vibrant. And then obviously the next thing is the media space, because they go hand in hand. If you look carefully, you see that when entrenched regimes are crushing opposition parties, they're normally also crushing opposition or independent press. So for example, in Uganda, we have seen independent media, such as the Daily Monitor, their offices have been raided by the military when the government is dissatisfied with their coverage. So when people say the opposition are weak in African countries, there's a reason behind it. It is because in most cases, the state has absolute control and has hijacked all the political space, all the economic space, as well as the media space. So these are the issues that need to be addressed. And then, Shaka, I would like to add one more point. In terms of trying to balance and level the playing field, I think African countries should explore one option. And I know this is going to be very tough to implement, but at least we can start talking about it. When we are about to have presidential elections, the incumbent president should step down, and there should be a transitional interim president for the election period. So if the election period is 2 months, if it's 3 months, the incumbent should not be president, should not be exercising the powers of president. You could introduce a creative element, perhaps the Speaker of Parliament, perhaps the Chief Judge, but it has to be somebody different from the incumbent president. And what does this do, Shaka? This means if there's a dispute in the outcome of the election, it can be adjudicated independently. Because once you have the incumbent sitting there, even if the ruling is not in his favor, he is not going to yield power. And in fact, so long as he's sitting there as president, commanding the police forces, commanding the armed forces, it's much more likely that even if there's a legal challenge, the courts would rule in favor of the incumbent because the judges fear the consequences. So those are my suggestions, Shaka.